Friends later said the Jamisons were afraid, not normal fear, not financial stress or neighborhood disputes. They believed someone was watching them. Sherilyn claimed spirits were haunting their home. Bobby believed people were trying to harm his family. At one point, Bobby reportedly fired a gun inside the house, not at a person, but as a warning to whatever he believed was there. Their home became a fortress. Windows sealed, lights dimmed, weapons kept close, and most disturbing of all, Madison had started sleeping in her parents' bed. Then in October 2009, the Jamisons vanished. No goodbye, no warning. Inside their abandoned home, relatives found something chilling, a note. It read, "We are leaving. Do not look for us." No explanation, no destination, just a statement that sounded less like a choice and more like a command. 8 days later, hunters discovered the Jamison family's truck. It was parked deep in the mountains, unlocked. Inside were their wallets, their cell phones, their GPS, and $32,000 in cash, stacked neatly on the front seat. Who leaves everything behind, including their child? No signs of struggle, no blood, no footprints leading away. It was as if the family had simply stepped out and vanished into thin air. Investigators soon uncovered something else. A home surveillance video. It showed Bobby and Sherilyn packing their belongings over and over and over again. They walked back and forth for hours, never speaking, never acknowledging each other, never checking on Madison. Their movements were mechanical, almost trance-like. Experts later described the behavior as consistent with extreme paranoia or something far more severe. Rumors exploded. Some claimed Bobby and Sherilyn were using methamphetamine. Others insisted they were victims, targeted by criminals, cults, or something supernatural. Friends admitted the couple had changed. They spoke of curses, spirits, dark forces. But no matter how many theories emerged, no one could explain why Madison was never seen again. Years passed. Leads dried up. The Jamison family became another cold case. Another mystery people whispered about late at night, until the forest gave them back. The remains showed no clear signs of trauma. No bullets, no knife wounds, no definitive cause of death. Madison's skull showed damage, but experts could not determine if it occurred before or after death. Were they murdered? Did they starve? Did paranoia drive them into the wilderness, where they slowly died together? Or was someone else there, watching, waiting? Why bring that much cash? Why leave everything behind? Why did 3 people die within a few hundred feet of each other without evidence of survival attempts? And most haunting of all, why did investigators later admit, "We may never know what really happened"? Because in this case, every answer only leads to another question. And the deeper you go, the darker it gets. After the discovery of the remains, investigators did what they should have done 4 years earlier. They went back into the San Bois Mountains, back into the silence. This was no gentle forest. The terrain was brutal. Steep inclines, loose rocks, thick brush that tore at skin and clothing. Even experienced hikers struggled. And yet, Bobby, Sherilyn, and little Madison had walked into this place willingly, or so it seemed. The question was no longer where they died. The question was how far they made it before everything went wrong. The remains were found over 2 miles from the truck. 2 miles of unforgiving wilderness. No trail, no clear path. Madison was 6 years old. She could not have walked that far on her own. So either she was carried, or she was never meant to make it back. This alone shattered the theory of a casual family hike gone wrong. Search teams expected to find signs of survival. A fire pit, shelter made from branches, evidence of foraging. They found nothing. No attempt to live. No attempt to escape. It was as if the Jamisons had sat down and simply waited. That detail would haunt investigators for years. $32,000. Cash that could have bought food, supplies, safety. But they never touched it. Why bring it at all? Some investigators believed the money wasn't meant for survival. It was meant for escape, or payment, or protection. Something Bobby believed could save his family. Something that never came. Those who knew Bobby described a man unraveling. He believed his family was under attack. He installed surveillance cameras. He kept weapons nearby. He trusted almost no one. Friends later admitted Bobby had become obsessed with conspiracies. He talked about enemies, unnamed, unseen. And when fear consumes a man like that, it doesn't fade. It escalates. Sherilyn's fear took a different form. She believed spirits were invading her home, that dark forces had attached themselves to her family. She reportedly sought spiritual guidance, not from churches but from belief systems rooted in energy, curses, and unseen realms. To her, the threat was not human. It was everywhere and nowhere. Could drugs explain their behavior? Methamphetamine became a popular theory. Paranoia, erratic movements, delusions, but toxicology tests were impossible. The remains were too decomposed. No blood, no tissue, only bones. And bones don't tell chemical secrets. The truth, if drugs played a role, would never be proven. One theory suggested tragedy without malice, that the Jamisons got lost, that exhaustion, hunger, and exposure claimed them one by one. But there was a problem. They were found within a small radius of each other, not scattered, not separated, together. That's not how people die when lost. That's how people die when something stops them. If foul play was involved, it was clean. Too clean. No weapons recovered, no bindings, no evidence of a struggle. And yet, experienced investigators admitted something felt wrong. People don't just walk into the wilderness with a child and never try to survive. Madison Jamison remains the heart of this mystery. She depended on her parents. She could not make decisions on her own. If Bobby and Sherilyn believed death was inevitable, did they bring her with them knowingly, or did something happen to her first that broke everything afterward? Investigators will not speculate publicly, but privately, many believe the answer lies with Madison. Some locals whispered about cults, remote groups, people who preyed on the fearful and unstable, but no evidence ever surfaced, no witnesses, no links, no proof. The cult theory remains exactly that, a rumor born from desperation. What we do know is this: at some point the Jamisons stopped moving. They didn't turn back. They didn't leave notes. They didn't call for help, whether through belief, fear, or force. They stayed, and the forest claimed them. The official ruling: cause of death, undetermined. No homicide ruling, no accident confirmation, no closure, just a file marked unsolved. This case refuses to fade because it attacks something deeper than fear. It asks, how fragile is the human mind? How far can belief push someone? And when fear becomes reality, who is responsible? 3 people entered the woods. None returned. No villain was caught. No truth confirmed. only theories, and one unbearable truth. Sometimes, the most terrifying mysteries have no answers at all. When bodies can't speak, investigators turn to something else. The mind. A psychological autopsy was quietly conducted, not on paper but through witness accounts, behaviors, and patterns. What emerged was not madness in the cinematic sense. It was something far more dangerous, a shared collapse. Psychologists call it folie à deux, a shared psychosis. One dominant personality feeds fear into another until both are trapped inside the same distorted reality. Bobby's paranoia needed validation. Sherilyn's spiritual fears gave it meaning. Together they built a world where danger was everywhere and escape meant isolation. Complete isolation. Why go there? Why the mountains? To Bobby, the forest meant protection. No cameras, no neighbors, no enemies. To Sherilyn, it was purification, a place away from spirits, away from corruption, away from whatever she believed had followed them. The wilderness wasn't a hiding place. It was a sanctuary, or so they believed. The money was never meant to be spent. It was insurance, control. A belief that if things went wrong, they had options. But once they reached the mountains, the money became meaningless. Paper offers no warmth, no food, no protection from fear. Investigators believe there was a moment, a quiet one. No shouting, no violence, just an understanding that the world they feared had won, and there was nowhere left to run. What happened next may have been intentional, or it may have been resignation. Either way, they stayed. This is where the case becomes unbearable. Experts believe Madison likely died first. Exposure, dehydration, or complications from exhaustion. When parents lose a child in isolation, something breaks permanently. Investigators believe Bobby and Sherilyn may have lost the will to survive after that moment. The forest didn't kill the Jamisons immediately. Grief did. Temperatures dropped. Energy vanished. Fear returned without food, water, or shelter. Death came quietly. No struggle, no chaos, just stillness. By morning, the forest had 3 new ghosts. Why didn't they leave a message? Because in their minds, there was nothing left to explain. They weren't running from life. They believed life had already abandoned them. Off the record, many investigators agree. This was not murder, not cults, not criminals. It was a perfect storm of paranoia, shared delusion, and isolation. A psychological tragedy. But admitting that doesn't make it easier. People want villains, monsters, someone to blame, because the idea that fear alone can destroy a family is far more terrifying. The Jamisons are remembered not for how they lived, but for how they disappeared. A reminder that mental health crises don't always look dramatic. Sometimes they look quiet, private, invisible, until it's too late. The mountains haven't changed. They stand where they always have, watching, waiting, keeping secrets. The Jamison family didn't vanish because the world was cruel. They vanished because fear convinced them it was. And sometimes, the most dangerous place a family can be is alone with their thoughts. No arrests, no confessions, no final answers, just a story that reminds us. Mystery doesn't always mean conspiracy. Sometimes it means tragedy. If you want more gripping true crime stories like this, hit like and subscribe and never miss a case.